Track may have cost Nissan's Jim Richards pole for the opening round of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship at Amaroo recently, but on race day there wasn't a combo capable of laying a glove on him over the distance. Gentleman Jim leads the point standings into round 2 of the series today at Symmons Plains, Tasmania. This horsepower haven has been familiar winning territory for the Sierras in recent years, but as Richards has demonstrated, 1990 is a new ball game entirely.
Hello, welcome to Seven's exclusive coverage of the second round of the championship. A big crowd gathered here to see some magnificent racing, but the weather is going to play a big part in proceedings because we have had 4 seasons in a day already, and it's very difficult to predict what will happen here. But the Weather Bureau has had a stab at it. They've gone for a cool, cloudy day with occasional showers, light winds, and a maximum of 18 degrees. Mike Raymond, it should be some exceptional racing here, especially with the forwards so dominant on the grid.
I think so, Cameron. In fact, it's great to see Peter Brock with pole position. In fact, Peter Brock set pole for this race last year in the Mobile Sierra. He didn't have too much luck because, of course, Dick Johnson last year got up to win the major race. But here's how they line up today. Peter Brock on pole in the Mobile Sierra. From 2 is Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges car. From 3, national champion Dick Johnson. Watch him today. Glenn Seton starts out of 4. From 5 is Alan Jones in the second of the Tony Longhurst cars. From 6, John Bowe, Tasmania's favourite. From 7, Jimmy Richards and the Skyline. One to watch today. Andrew Miedecke starts out of position number 8. From 9, we have Colin Bond in the Celtic Sierra, and rounding out the top 10, it's Gregg Hansford. Little has changed at Symmons Plains since the circuit became part of the National Touring Car Series back in 1969. The 2.41 kilometre speed strip just outside Longhurst is known for its long sweeping straights and one-lane turns. Symmons is tough on brakes and tyres, though for the past 2 years, Dick Johnson's Shell Ultra Sierra team has run roughshod over the mainland opposition. Last year, Peter Brock sprang a surprise by taking pole in the Mobile Sierra. And at the start, it was Johnson who blitzed them in the all-conquering Cosworth. Brock gave chase to get on even terms with the Queenslander, while Brad Jones in the second Mobile machine was making his presence felt amongst the middle markers. Sadly, he was to finish in pit lane after an engine expired. John Bowe, meanwhile, dashed in for some Dulux and came back like a house on fire. Dick had them all covered to win by 5.6 seconds from Brock, and Bowe third 48 seconds in arrears.
Winning here would mean a lot to me, obviously because I'm a local. 88 was the first year I drove a touring car here and I came second. 89 I came third, so I hope I'm going to go back up the right way.
The Devonport Dynamo was considered the shortest price favourite in the field for the Shell Ultra Opener at Amaroo a fortnight ago. There he was on the front row with Alan Jones, and it was all there for the taking. Trouble was, nobody bothered to consult Nissan's Jim Richards, who rocketed off the line to snooker the front row Sierras in one swoop. To his credit, Bowe gave chase and was hauling in the GTSR Turbo until he kissed the wall and had to ease off the gas to save his tyres. Johnson turned in the drive of the day, coming from the middle of the pack to take third and giving the Shell team a good start to the 1990 series. On the leaderboard, Richards has a 5-point break over the Tiger from Tassie. Johnson is third, 2 clear of Longhurst, and a similar gap back to Brock.
Well, we couldn't have wished for a better start to the season with a first place at Amaroo. That was really good for Nissan.
Yesterday's pole shootout was always going to favour the Sierras, but as he did last year, Peter Brock set the pace in the 05 Mobile entry. His time of 55.86 seconds was 10/100ths faster than his front row effort in 89, and there's no doubt Peter Perfect is better equipped this weekend to take the fight up to the Shell combo of Johnson and Bowe.
Things have changed since 1989. We arrived here very wet behind the ears as far as Sierras were concerned. However, 12 months down the track, we're now doing better than their qualifying times that we did last year on race tyres. So the interesting thing is, of course, that the field is so close.
Sharing the front row with Brock is former Bathurst victor Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges Sierra. The gap a mere 5/100ths of a second. Row 2 pairs noted Symmons sizzler Johnson alongside Glenn Seton in the Peter Jackson Ford, while the third row will be split by Amaroo pole sitter Alan Jones and Bowe in the second of the Shell Ultra Sierras. Richards came to Tasmania not expecting to hold the turbo Fords around the circuit, but surprised even himself with the top-end power curve of the Nissan GTSR Skyline. He'll start for position 7 while Andrew Miedecke has qualified 8th, leaving Colin Bond and Gregg Hansford to quibble about who does what from row 5. Holden hotshots, Percy and Perkins have it all to do from 12th and 13th in the 24-car field. But the real race should be between the top 10. Take your pick, but don't write off Jim Richards just yet.
We've been pleasantly surprised in practice so far that we're so close to them. And although we're sort of 7th on the grid, there's only sort of about, I suppose, half to 3/4 of a second difference between the first 7 or 8 cars. Now that to us is very important because it means that we are competitive with the series on this track where we thought we wouldn't be.
Nissan may have brought only 1 car to Tasmania this weekend, but the team is confident they have a near-perfect setup to ensure round 2 of the championship is not a Sierra benefit. So don't go away. After the break, we'll have all the championship action from Symmons Plains. Welcome back, Australia, to Symmons Plains International Raceway just outside Launceston. And this telecast brought to you by Ultra Unleaded by Shell. You can really experience the difference. And Shell, of course, along with Toyota, bringing you the National Touring Car Championship during 1990. You'll never forget round 1 at Amaroo Park a fortnight ago. Round 2 today with Peter Brock on pole position. Let's check out how they'll start today in round 2 from Symmons Plains in Tasmania. Peter Brock on pole position in car number 05, warming up the tyres at the moment. Sat on pole for the race last year, as we mentioned a little earlier. And sharing the front row with him will be Tony Longhurst in the number 25 Benson and Hedges Sierra. Out of position number 3 is the national champion of Australia, Dick Johnson, in car number 17 for Shell. Starting out of position number 4 is Glenn Seton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 5, Alan Jones, pole sitter from Amaroo Park. As you can see there's the split over the top 5. 55.86 the qualifying time, down to the 5th top qualifier at 56.41. From position number 6, 18, John Bowe, the Tassie Tiger, in the second of the Shell Sierras. From 7, car number 2, Jim Richards in the Nissan Skyline. From 8, car number 6, Andrew Miedecke in the Mobil 1 Racing Sierra. From 9 is car number 8, Colin Bond in the Caltech Sierra. From 10, number 9, Gregg Hansford in Alan Moffat's ANZ Sierra. From 11.55, Kevin Waldock in the Sierra. From 12, 16 is Win Percy in the Commodore. From 13, car number 11, Larry Perkins in the Commodore VL. From 14.26, Tony Noske in the Brock Racing Sierra. 15.23, Chris Lambden in the Bowe Repairs Nissan Skyline. Greg Crick starts out of 16 in car number 99. From 17 is 15, Johnny Smith, watch him today, in the Toyota Team Supra. From 18.24, Gerald Kay in the Commodore. Car number 98 starts out of 19, Bob Jones, and rounding out 20, John Faulkner in the Toyota Team Corolla. Let's have a look now at the start of the race. We're just not too far off the start with Peter Brock on the outside. Made a terrible start here last year, and that enabled Dick Johnson to get through and take over the lead even before they'd reached the Brambles hairpin. To viewers across Australia, New Zealand and throughout Europe, we welcome you to Symmons Plains for what promises to be one heck of a race. Round 2, the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship. Only about 10 seconds away from the start. Waiting for the lights to come on. Who will it be? Brocky, Longhurst, or watch for Johnson to make the split? Racing. Brock off to a good one this time. Longhurst buried it on the starting line, and Johnson grabs a gear. And Johnson up now on the inside is really going to make life interesting for Tony Longhurst when they head down to the first corner. Brilliant start by John Bowe. And just look at Alan Jones muscling his way into the action. Also a good start there from Jimmy Richards. Brock into the hairpin. Gets out of there with Johnson in second place, and right behind him is Tony Longhurst. They're all through turn number 1, the hairpin, without a problem.
Alan Jones, again, for the second race running, has lit that car up and absolutely smoked it. He sat there going nowhere as we watch this scrap between Longhurst and Dick Johnson. Peter Brock, the leader. And problems back in the pack. I think it could be Alan Jones. In fact, got smoke pouring out the back of the second of the Benson and Hedges Sierra, and he is slowing down appreciably. This moment, though, it's Peter Brock who'll lead them round for the completion of the first lap, and doing it comfortably as he comes up over the hump. Back towards the pits with Longhurst showing Dick Johnson. He's got enough stick to be able to pass him in the opening lap, so they're down 1 lap. With Brock leading it from Tony Longhurst, Dick Johnson, John Bowe, Glenn Seton, a good start in the Peter Jackson Sierra. And right in amongst them, of course, is Jimmy Richards in the Nissan Skyline GTSR. Well, this is an aggressive start from Tony Longhurst as we look at his teammate Alan Jones. Remember I said off the line, the car just sat there absolutely smoking the back tyres. Alan did that at Amaroo Park, and I wonder whether they've just got a problem in the rear end of the car as a result of that, or maybe something broke on the line. Who knows? We'll get Cameron Williams down there to check that one out for us. And Peter Brock, meanwhile, continues to lead. Now, a lot of activity on the left-hand side of that car, but Tony Longhurst is sweating on the back of Peter Brock at the moment.
Coming in for the completion of the second lap. And it'll be Peter Brock, lead them down past the pit turn, almost a brake lock up that time from Tony Longhurst, front of Benson and Hedges car.
Front right-hand corner, a Longhurst car doing a lot of work.
Right behind him, Dick Johnson playing this one ever so cool after a splendid drive. Jones rejoins the race. A costly light-up of the slicks on the starting line for Alan Jones.
Well, maybe we'll find out shortly, but 56.8 for Peter Brock on that lap compares with his 55.8. His best lap in qualifying, so that shows you that on the second lap, with relatively cool tyres and a relatively high fuel load, Brock is absolutely flying.
Said yesterday, of course, that he qualified on race tyres and expected to be able to keep the pace up today. We'll wait and see. There's the scrap going back behind them. John Bowe of Tasmania, car number 18, has Glenn Seton and the Peter Jackson Sierra right behind him. Next is Andrew Miedecke in the second of the Mobile 1 Sierras. Then I notice, I think it was Colin Bond is away to a great start in the Caltech Sierra, and Jimmy Richards behind him. So Richards actually has lost 1 or 2 spots.
There's the split. You can see Richards at the back of that pack. John Bowe, Glenn Seton. Through this hairpin left-hander. It's very, very hard to gear a car appropriately for this corner. Win Percy in the background there in the Holden Racing Team Commodore. Go back to the start now and have a replay. We'll see just exactly what happened here from the point of view of Jim Richards. Look at the Jones car. Smoke everywhere. Glenn Seton off to the right. Jim, those super quick changes. He had to lift off a little bit because Glenn came across and took some territory, and that's Andrew Miedecke on the outside. Then they go down to this super tight left-hander. As we come back now with Peter Brock still leading from Tony Longhurst. In third place, Dick Johnson. In fourth place, John Bowe. Further back behind John Bowe, Glenn Seton, then Andrew Miedecke, then Jim Richards, Colin Bond, Greg Hansford, the next man through. Then the first of the Holdens, Win Percy. A gap then to Chris Lambden. Alan Jones 1 lap down, Kevin Waldock, Larry Perkins and Tony Noske.
Yes, that replay showed rather effectively. I think that Alan almost caught a lot of the loose stuff that was just outside the circuit, outside the racing line, so he really did give it a buzz off the line. Back to 5th, 6th, 7th for you, with young Glenn Seton going through, still holding that brake as we go down into Coke Corner, and the man in the pits with all the information is Cameron Williams, who was there after the Alan Jones pit stop. He might have some information from Frank Gardner. Cameron?
Yes, I certainly have, Mike. Alan blew a rear tyre, the left-hand side tyre, and I think it may have happened right at the start, so he's done a circuit on a blown tyre. He's back on the track now, but there's still some concern about that rear.
Okay, thanks, Cameron. In the pits?
Jones has blown a left rear tyre and Cameron's blown his voice. Yes. Down there with a bad dose of the flu this weekend, so we'll let him down there all weekend and freeze to death. Thanks, Cameron, for that. That was interesting. The problem with Jones is obviously he's happened right there on the line, and that's why we're seeing so much tyre smoke, and that's cost him dearly, but he's charging back through the pack, and every little point can count in these championships.
Peter Brock continues to lead in the Mobile Sierra 05. We'll show you the cars going through. There's your race leader, Peter Brock. Second spot on the Benson and Hedges Sierra, Tony Longhurst. Third is Dickie Johnson going through. Here's fourth, John Bowe. Fifth is Glenn Seton in the Sierra as they make their way back down towards the pit turn. And some problems here as Jimmy Richards fading just a little bit. Andrew Miedecke is the next one through as they're already up to put a lap in some of the smaller cars. David Sala being passed there on the outside by the freight train. Jimmy Richards, at this moment, not on striking terms with the Ford Sierras as Peter Brock exits the hairpin, still clear of Longhurst and Dick Johnson. show you how the cars have really spread out in the opening 6 circuits of the race so far.
As we watch Glenn Seton there, the gap from Peter Brock to Tony Longhurst is now out to 2.8 seconds. Seton under some pressure from Andrew Miedecke. There's Jim Richards, car number 2, and there he is at the wheel. I understand that Jim's able to hear us at the moment. How's it going out there, Jim?
Good, Neil, so far.
Did you get off to a good start? I saw Seton take some ground off you.
Yes, a few of them did, but I'm just slowly working away at them, not trying too hard too early. Long way to go yet.
You said last night, Jim, that you thought the car was going to be very consistent. Is it showing up that way?
Yes, it is. You know, we're only a few laps into the race, but so far we're managing to hold on to the 3 series in front of us. We're to see how things pan out.
It's a marvellous effort from your team of engineers and mechanics. The improvement in this car in 12 months is quite staggering.
Well, it just goes to show what a good product we've got in the Nissan Skyline and what a good team we've got to do all the work on it. The driving is the relatively easy part.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think we're watching a pretty good bloke at the wheel here at the moment.
Thanks, buddy.
Talk to you later.
See ya.
Jimmy Richards talking with Neil Crompton. Pictures, of course, from our Nissan Sport race cam. Not only one inside the car, but we'll show you some pickies from our Nissan track cam as well during today's telecast from Symmons Plains. Give you an idea of this circuit, which is quite abrasive. In the meantime, there's the split. First back to second, Tony Longhurst for Benson and Hedges' team. Dick Johnson, maybe just a touch closer this time in car number 17. Dick has been trailed by John Bowe, his team partner in the 18 Shell Sierra, then followed by Glenn Seton. 12 months ago here, I was just thinking that Dick really had the wood on the field. He was able to get off the line and then fend off Peter Brock for a couple of laps and disappear into the distance. But it really is a tribute to the other teams, how in 12 months have been sick and tired of Dick embarrassing them. They've really put a lot of effort into development, and we're seeing a lot more competitive teams in with their Sierras in 1990.
3.4 seconds the gap from Brock back to Tony, and Peter's really just slicing this pack up at the moment in a big way.
This is where the action should be coming from shortly. We'll see if Dick Johnson can work his way down the inside of Tony Longhurst. In the meantime, our race leader, Peter Brock, in the Mobile Sierra, car number 05 to the Brambles hairpin again. He's doing exactly what he predicted he would do yesterday. As if he won the start, he figured he was going to be able to get away from the pack, and he's doing that at the moment. Let's check them out for you on our Shell Ultra race score. Our familiar music. Peter Brock is our race leader. Running second, Tony Longhurst. Third is Dick Johnson of Queensland. Fourth is Johnny Bowe, his team partner. And running fifth in car number 35, Glenn Seton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. And we'll be back at Symmons in a sec.
And as we watch Dick Johnson here, you'll note that there's a yellow car missing from this frame. And Tony Longhurst, for some strange reason, has gone to the pits. Now you'll see Dick Johnson go through on the inside in the far corner over at Coca-Cola. And just a moment after this, suddenly Longhurst just looks to the left. The car slows up desperately. John Bowe goes by, and he's gone to the pits. So once again, as soon as we can get Cameron in there, we'll find out exactly what has happened with the Longhurst car. So that makes Peter Brock the clear leader from Dick Johnson. I'll give you that gap shortly. And then another reasonably healthy gap back to John Bowe, then Glenn Seton. There's the gap first to second. That's Brock in the foreground, then Johnson, then John Bowe, then Glenn Seton in the background. And hard to see who's after that.
So Johnson, Neil's giving an idea on the watch to see whether or not Johnson is closing on Brock. At this stage, there's the two Shell cars. Brock has just gone through. Here's Dick Johnson going through in car number 17. John Bowe running in third as we pick up on Peter Brock. Oops, a little skatey through there. Might be a touch of oil still on the racetrack there, but a bit of a skate there from Peter Brock. There's second going through Johnson. Here's third, John Bowe. Fourth is Glenn Seton. Fifth, of course, is Andrew Miedecke. Forget Alan Jones. Next one up is the Nissan Skyline, of course. And then Colin Bond going through in car number 10. Greg Hansford is your next place driver in the ANZ Sierra. Then back through the pack to Win Percy, who goes through there smartly. Alan Jones, Kevin Waldock just going through there on the inside, and Larry Perkins. followed by Tony Noske, who's the next one, and Chris Lambden in the Bowe Repairs Nissan Skyline, the privateer. Well down in the field, but that's how they're running in the space between the cars. As you can see, Brock doing it comfortably in the number 05 Mobile Sierra, down through the sweeper.
3.1 seconds is the gap from Brock to Dick Johnson at the moment. And I reckon, if anything, Johnson's starting to close the gap. Peter just got very out of shape the last time through that particular corner, and they're certainly plodding their way through all sorts of traffic at the moment. And it's probably giving Dick Johnson a little bit of inspiration as the back of that mobile car gets a bit bigger. Let's see if we can get a gap for you once again. Brock coming onto the main straight area, and it's now down to 2.5 seconds, so it is closing. There's John Bowe. Johnson on the charge at the moment, minus Tony Longhurst, who's gone to the pits. So the Benson and Hedges cars not having a good day. At left rear tyre deflating on Alan Jones' car at the very start. He had to go in and make a stop and has rejoined one lap down.
We also saw John Faulkner there in the Toyota Team Corolla. Of course, running the baby class, going after another national championship victory. He's had a lap put in by both Peter Brock and Dick Johnson at this stage, and looking set for another class win here this afternoon. Dick Johnson, car number 17, the Shell Ultra High Sierra, giving chase after our race leader Peter Brock. And we take our Dunlop race cam with Dickie Johnson, and on behalf of all 7 viewers, it's great to have you back talking with us, Dick. Dick Johnson, can you hear us, Dick? You look like you're closing here nicely.
I hope so. I don't think I was doing this for nothing.
It looked like it was a little slippery down there in Coke Corner the last lap. Peter Brock getting a little out of shape, and that's where you've made up a bit of ground on him too.
Yeah, it's a little bit slippery, all right. Only longer. Holden the Bowe on the windscreen is not looking real good.
All right, we might let you get on and do what you have to do, and then when you do it, we'll come back and talk to you.
Yeah, these guys sit around the outside and put their foot into it.
What he said. Okay, now Cameron Williams is in the pits with Tony. We'll find out what happened to the B&H car. Cameron?
Yes, Neil, Tony didn't even bother to drive into the pits. He drove straight back to his garage. Tony, major problems.
Yeah, we started off nicely and I got past Dick. And when I was in behind Peter, the water temperature was starting to come up a little bit. It was up to about 110. I thought I'd better just back off a little bit, so I dropped 500 revs. And that's when Dick was catching me. And so I thought a little bit of a problem here with the water temperature. Next thing, it just went off the clock, and it's obviously split a bore or blown a head gasket.
Well, that's a disappointment, obviously, because Alan had such a bad start with the blown rear tyre.
Yeah, it's very disappointing for the team. The car was going great. It's the best it's ever been, and we'll just have to look forward to Phillip Island in 2 weeks.
Yeah, better luck at Phillip Island. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Cameron. Highest place Commodore in the pack at the moment is Win Percy, running a 9th in the Holden Special Vehicles entry, coming up, putting a lap on Gerald Kay and the Jag Parts Commodore.
Headlights ablaze. We're 18 minutes into this race at the moment.
At least looks like a top 10 finish for Win Percy today in the HSV Commodore. Still clear of the Larry Perkins V8. They're filling the pinch here at Symmons Plains against the somewhat nippier Ford Sierras and Jimmy Richards and the Nissan Skyline, but for a lot of Holden fans out there, well, there's Win Percy up to 9th in the field, and also putting a lap there on one of the Toyota Corollas.
Brock to Johnson is now 2 seconds exactly.
Well, it is starting to get a bit tight up at the front as we go through the sweeper now with Percy in the Commodore. Good, of course, running the Touring Car Championship this year, has moved from the UK to Australia to run the Touring Car Championship, and of course the Tooheys 1000 at Bathurst.
2.3 seconds the gap. Brock to Johnson.
So Percy goes through. Car number 16, we look for the gap between our race leader, Peter Brock, who's going down the back sweeper towards Coke Corner, and Dick Johnson.
He's just holding that gap pretty steady at the moment. Dick made pretty fair inroads, and now it's just stabilised for a moment. And John Bowe has managed to shake away a little bit from Glenn Seton. Just see those guys there. There's Dick putting a lap on John Smith in the Toyota Supra.
So we'll have a look at that later. Johnny Smith this weekend in the Toyota Supra. The car qualified reasonably well. A lot of development to go on the car, but John said it gets better at every race meeting. Johnson. Sorry.
In stereo. Johnson using Dunlop tyres this weekend. Brock running Bridgestone, and Bowe obviously also on Dunlop, and then the next car, the Seton car, running Yokohama. So an interesting spread of rubber on these vehicles, and it would seem as though Peter's come up with the best combination of compound and car setup at the moment, and doing a pretty mean job of steering along the way. And he was very strong down here last year, as you said. Had a lot of problems at Amaroo with grip. In fact, half the field did, one way or another. So he was pretty keen to come down here and do well. Let's take a look at the Toyota race score and check out the top 5 positions for you. Peter Brock still leading from Dick Johnson by about 2 seconds. Then John Bowe in 3rd place. Glenn Seton, car number 35, in 4th. Andrew Miedecke in 6th place in the Mobile One Racing Sierra. And we are 21 minutes into this race.
John Bowe, car number 18, the second of the Shell Sierras, running 3rd, and right behind him is Glenn Seton in the Peter Jackson Sierra, and getting a little bit closer this time. Man in the background, of course, is Alan Jones, who lost a lap by going to the pits with a tyre problem, but he's in there to have a good race, and he has really moved up in the last couple of laps to keep Glenn Seton on his toes and make it pretty lively racing between the pair. Jonesy relishing a run in touring cars on a full-time basis during 1990. A little unfortunate at Amaroo Park after sitting on pole for that race. And rotten luck today having tyre problems in the opening circuit. We'll take our Dulux Autocolor race cam as we go inside Glenn Seton's Peter Jackson Sierra, coming up behind John Bowe to the hairpin.
Back to first gear around here. Getting a bit closer to the back of John as he closed up under brakes, but John scoots away again as they put power down on the other side. Glenn having a much better run this weekend than Amaroo Park, qualifying in 4th and racing at the right end of the field at the moment. He had a lot of problems. Well, you heard him say on Dulux race cam at Amaroo Park, he had a lot of problems with grip and thought that he went for the wrong tyre. But he's giving it his all at the moment, and I guess it's pretty true to say the Shell cars are the benchmark in this class at the moment, and he's hanging right in there with the best of them.
And I believe they're fairly confident by the time they go to Phillip Island for the next round of the championship, a fortnight from today. They've been doing a lot of testing down there.
25.5 minutes down.
John Bowe.
1.8 seconds the gap from Brock to Johnson.
1.8, then back to John Bowe with Glenn Seton in car number 35, then Andrew Miedecke behind him in car number 6, and Jimmy Richards in the Skyline, one in arrears, as they work the sweeper section. Well, they call the back straight here, it straightens out for a little spell, and then straight down to the left-hander at Coke Corner.
1.6 seconds, so Dick's just nibbling away at that gap. Andrew Miedecke's having a pretty lonely run behind Glenn Seton. We have to forget Alan Jones for just a moment. Then we've got Jim Richards, followed then by Colin Bond. There's Jonesy. Then Gregg Hansford, quite a long way back again. Behind Hansford, we've got Win Percy. Win Percy, then back to Kevin Waldock. Kevin Waldock, Larry Perkins. And I think behind Larry, we've got Chris Lambden in the Bowe Repairs car.
Tony Noske was up and running in 12th. He has gone to the pits. We'll check that out for you. See the reason why he's in there in the number 26 car. So some bad luck for Tony Noske. Car looked good in practice yesterday. But there's our race leader, though, Peter Brock. Sat on pole last year, was caught and passed by Dick Johnson and finished second. John Bowe finishing third last year. Pole again this weekend, and he's up front and leading it at the halfway mark. And the gap about the same.
Down to 1.5 seconds this lap, so it's just oscillating a little bit, but there's not very much in it. A lot of pressure on Peter at the moment. Johnson really attacking hard, and I tell you, I think if anything, John Bowe and Glenn Seton are a little bit closer to the leaders than they were earlier on. There's Andrew Miedecke, the new recruit in the mobile team this year. He joined the team right at the end of the '89 season and drove for them in New Zealand. And Miedecke hanging up his helmet now as a race team owner and joining the mobile team as Peter's sidekick. And they're still enjoying the benefits of engineering input from Andy Rouse in the UK from their Coventry base. And the mobile cars on their Bridgestone tyres still working very, very well. This year, the Ford Sierras, we mentioned at Amaroo Park, are 80 kilograms heavier. And no matter what anybody says, it's like putting a passenger in the car, and that definitely has an effect. But such is the development of these cars and the ongoing quest for horsepower that even though this year there's no use of qualifying tyres in the Shell Series, Peter Brock in qualifying yesterday was quicker on race rubber than he was on qualifying tyres last year for pole, so it's quite extraordinary. 55.86. If you said to any of these blokes, including Peter Brock a couple of years ago, that they'd be doing those sort of times, they'd have fallen about the floor laughing.
Yeah, it has changed in 12 months.
They're very, very fast little cars, these jiggers.
And there's a lot of them, which makes life a little more uncomfortable for Jim Richards on a horsepower circuit.
You know what they say sometimes, if you can't beat them,
yes,
join them.
Well, Jim's about to depart from all that, though, in a couple of weeks' time when they debut the new Nissan GTS. What a rocket ship that promises to be. Colin Bond driving for Caltex in the Caltex Sierra. Bond is running 7th on the road at the moment. He made a good start. Got away quickly from Jim Richards. He's hanging in there. Had problems at the opening round. Was well back in the pack most of the day. So Colin Bond continues in 7th. Bit of a lonely drive for Colin. He's got no one in front of him and no one behind him.
But knowing Bondy and his character, he'd be laughing all the way. He's got to be one of the most pleasant blokes in Australian motorsport, a 3-time Australian rally champion. He's been a winner of the Touring Car Championship, winner before at Bathurst. And he's exactly 1 second slower than Brock in qualifying yesterday, but that's the difference between 1st and 7th, or 1st and 8th in Bondy's case.
Leaders go beneath the Dunlop Bridge and work their way up towards the hairpin. Give you some indication of the gap back to Colin Bond.
Had the opportunity once to be a passenger with Colin on the dirt down in Canberra in just a road car, but just extraordinary car control. This is the gap back to Gregg Hansford in the Alan Moffat car.
Well, you need a pair of field glasses today. There he is.
So you can see that Colin's got no pressure on him at the moment, and not too far behind Gregg. We've got Win Percy in the Commodore.
So Hansford runs 8th on the racetrack at the moment. In the ANZ Sierra, as we mentioned at Amaroo Park, Alan Moffat electing for Gregg to do the running in the Touring Car Championship. He had a pretty miserable run last year, only had a couple of races, and then of course missed out, nominated in the driver lineup at Bathurst, but because of car problems missed out on a run during the Tooheys 1000. But is enjoying a full season of touring car competition this year. Had a few more guys to race with at Amaroo Park, so this has been a bit of a lonely run in 8th spot. Is anyone after the 2 leaders, or after the 3 of them, have discovered this afternoon? Gap about the same going down to Cope Corner. John Bowe, 3rd in the race. 4th is the man right behind him in the Peter Jackson Sierra, and that of course is Glenn Seton. They're probably the closest two cars since the race started. They've been having their own individual scrap. Seton gets close for a spell, puts a bit of pressure on John. Then a lap car will interfere, and then the gap will open up. Getting a little closer this time as they make their way up towards the hairpin. I think John would love to win one here, but it's not going to be today. We take our race cam in the Glen Seton Sierra, sponsored by ICA Dulux Auto Colour, and then you can see just how he gets away from him in that spot. Looks like another pit stop coming in for Alan Jones and the Benson and Hedges number 20 Sierra. And giving the tyres a fair old caning since he went back out onto the circuit. But Seton closes a little bit as they come down towards the pit turn. And why not go to our Dulux Auto Colour race cam? How's it going, Glenn?
Oh, it's going fine. Just trying to sit on behind John Bowe at the moment and sort of hit with one foul swim from the passing move. But it's pretty hard with the lap traffic, so but the car's good. Break the gear stick lever off on the second lap. As you can see, there's no gear stick ball. So we just have to handle it with your bare hands. But the car's going good. But by the end of the race, I think we can catch them anyway.
Well, it just seemed a few laps ago you got a little bit closer. Those lap cars can really destroy your game plan from time to time.
Well, we thought we were in for a good chance from the word go, so it's a matter of sitting here and holding on. But hard work. You're racing against the best of Australia, so you're naturally got to work for your win.
That's certainly the case. Thanks for spending time with us, Glenn. We'll let you get back onto the job of catching John.
No problem, Mike.
Thanks, pal.
It's got a pretty hard task there, having to change gears with the ball of the gear lever missing, and it's going to make an awful mess of the palm of his hand. Actually, as we were chatting to him, I was just watching John inch away a little bit, yes. So I wasn't too keen to throw too many more questions at him. He'll come looking for us at the end of the race meeting.
I thought that as he was showing us the glove and everything else, and John was disappearing into the distance. So Glen Seton continues after John Bowe. Bowe consolidating third place. Race still led by Peter Brock over Dick Johnson.
We're 35 minutes in. And it's all come down now to plucking away through some traffic, and that gap just seems to be staying pretty much the same.
And here's Jonesy back with another fresh set of tyres.
Plenty of fire in his veins, Alan Jones.
Just wants to race with anyone today. Straight down the outside of Brocky. He's already had 2 stops for tyres. And Peter really doesn't need to get involved in any of this because he's been holding that very slim buffer over Dick Johnson. 1.5 to 2, then 2 1/4 seconds, back to 2, then back to 1.5.
It was interesting when we were talking to Glenn before, the amount of buffeting that was coming in the car. Did you notice that when it was at high speed? Profile on Peter Brock here, 3-time winner of the Touring Car Championship, and of course an unbelievable history at Mount Panorama with 9 wins and also 9 wins at Sandown. And after round 1 in the series, he's 5th. Well, he's going to improve that score today if he can stay where he is at the moment. Still leading by just under a second from Dick Johnson. Peter Brock. Hardly need to explain much about that character in Australian motorsport.
Now that he's been able to convince Jonesy to go off and race with someone else for a while, he can settle back.
And hasn't he bolted? He's totally vanished.
Alan will be the guy that finished last today, but he'll have passed every car in the field twice.
It's 0.8 of a second between Brock and Johnson.
Closing up dramatically as they go down to Coke Corner.
But the other thing that's interesting is the gap from Brock to Seton, which spans the first 4 cars, and that gap is only 4.9 seconds. It's not too much. So we've got, and you can just see John Bowe and Glen Seton in the background there, the We've got Brock, Johnson, Bowe and Seton all within striking distance of one another. Then we're 37¼ minutes into the race. There we go. That was a bit of an idea. That's the two lead cars on the front straight. And there's third and fourth. And if anything, I reckon these guys are just getting the odd millimetre closer to the leaders.
All of the touring car rounds this year are timed races over 50 minutes. With the exception of the Wanneroo round, which loses 5. That's a 45-minute. And, of course, the next round of the Touring Car Championship will be a fortnight from today at Phillip Island in Victoria.
And that'll be worth waiting for.
Yep. Here's our race leader, Peter Brock. Let's check them out for you on our Shell Ultra race score. Brocky leads round 2 of the championship. The defending title holder, Dick Johnson, is second. John Bowe, his teammate, is third. Fourth spot is Glenn Seton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. And running fifth is car number 6, Andrew Miedecke. And we'll be back at Symmons in just a moment. Race leader Peter Brock still fending off a very determined Dick Johnson in car number 17. Johnson getting closer all the time. They've just put a lap on Larry Perkins. And in fact, during that break, Perkins probably held out Dick Johnson for about a lap, and that really took the pressure off Brocky. But now that he's by, he's straight back on the tail of the Mobile Sierra. So Dick Johnson turning in another splendid drive here today at Symmons Plains. The race is far from over. John Bowe seems to be just gaining all the time, moving towards both Johnson and Brock, and Glenn Seton is just on his bumper.
Oh dear, he's got him. Brock locked up a brake, or something let go on the car, I'm not sure what, but he got very out of shape in that hairpin, and he caught one midships then from Dick.
Dick's through with all the fooling. It's time to get down to some serious racing for the lead now. So, dramatic turn.
I'm a bit confused by all that. I can't quite figure out what happened there. I have to go away and have another look at all that. But
we can't afford the time, you know.
No, it's all happening with Brock sort of busy signalling to the guy in the Corolla that he's got a little bit of a problem on his hands at the moment. I think it's a number 17 Sierra.
Crowd has really come to life here at Symmons Plains. Very, very popular is Dick Johnson.
Notice that the other two cars are still getting a little bit closer.
Here we go again.
I wonder if Peter's just getting on the wrong edge with tyres now. Things still skating around a bit there, isn't it?
Yep. Now, all the time, you'll notice that John Bowe's getting a little closer. I think Brock's car might have a bit more, well, has had so far a little more stick in a straight line than Johnson's car, and Brock has now turned into a bit of defensive driving.
He's got a couple of cars to negotiate here, and that'll be hard work.
And Dick's going to keep him honest.
Gee, it's a great scrap, isn't it? Good pickies from Dunlop Race Cam.
And now Johnson down the inside. The bang! Out of the way. They are playing for keeps at Symmons Plains, and Brock's got the hand out of the window. I'd suggest to Peter he might like to get it back inside the window, because
he was signalling to Gerald Kay.
I know.
Please get out of my way. It was probably because there's no doubt that he's on the ragged edge tyre-wise, certainly not in his driving, but so he can't afford to be held up and then have to use a great heap of power out the other side of the corner. He's got to keep some sort of speed up through the corner, because if he calls on too much from his right foot, he's going to break out into masses of wheel spin. So if he gets balked by a car and then has to really push hard, then that only works against him. In fact, it's working against him already, because Dick Johnson's well positioned for a lead change here as they go to the left-hander at the end of the back straight, and I think he's pulled it off.
Fantastic effort from Johnson here today at Symmons Plains. Zipping down on the inside of Peter Brock. He's taken the lead away. Crowd has really come to life. We've only got probably 5 or maybe 6 more laps left in the event. Johnson now in control.
44 minutes gone out of this race.
Johnson will lead them across the line. Peter Brock runs in second. But will Brock fall back into the clutches of John Bowe? Because Bowe has fallen into the clutches of young Glenn Seton.
Peter's car really skating onto the straight that time. It was pretty badly out of shape. He won't give up.
No, Brock won't, no. And
he's got Kevin Waldock to, well, they've both got Kevin Waldock to deal with. And then John Smith. Good scrap, but not if you're a Mobile fan.
No. Here's Johnson going between those two cars. Couldn't get Waldock before the end of the straight.
So Peter's trying to drive as straight as he possibly can at the moment, try and conserve what's left of his tyres.
There's third spot being held by John Bowe, but wanting to take that away from him is Glenn Seton in the Peter Jackson Sierra, number 35. They sweep beneath the Dunlop Bridge and run down the short straight to the hairpin. It's all getting pretty tight here now as Larry Perkins opens the door up here for Bowe to go through. We take Dulux Autocolour race cam, and Glenn will dive straight down on the inside, and he's right on Bowe. Broke loose with some horsepower then as he came off the turn.
You can hear the Commodore to his right-hand side. 3 cars all scrapping here. Larry's 1 lap down.
And this is fourth, looking for third at the end of the back straight, down to the left-hander at Coca-Cola.
Oops, John locks up the front left. And you can see what that does. Look how it just eats into time. In fact, Glenn got right so close on the back, he had to back off again. One tiny little mistake, and it just makes a drastic difference in the gap between your car and another car.
Gap opening up between Johnson over Brock. Johnson probably 3 or 4 car lengths. We're following the major scrap that's left in the closing few laps of this race. It's the dice for third. John Bowe again down on the inside as Seton closes up under brakes. Waldock is still there, so they haven't been able to shake Kevin in the PLAYSCAPE Sierra. He's been doing a great job too, Waldock, in the series thus far. Strong qualifier at Amaroo.
47 minutes coming up on the clock. Well, I think Dick's managed to skate through this time, and he's increasing that lead. Brock in second. That was Peter, just went out of shot then, and then John Bowe in third, Glenn Seton in fourth.
Waldock, who they're both trying to pass at this stage, running 10th on the road in the PLAYSCAPE Sierra. That's really jumbled it all up. As Glenn Seton, the Dulux Autocolour race cam, zips under the bridge. Bowe now to the outside of Waldock, trying to haul him in before they get down to the hairpin turn. But it's straight and very, very fast, the 55 Sierra. And here's Glenn back again to play with the pair of them. Kevin Waldock leading them. At the moment, they're trying to get by him while their little duel continues for third. And this time it's Bowe down on the inside of him. But I don't think Glenn Seton is close enough to slip in before the end of the straight, and he's not. So that's going to give Bowe the break that he needs, with time really starting to run out here at Symmons Plains. Looks like Dick Johnson is well and truly on the way to winning round number 2 of the Shell Ultra Touring Car Championship here this afternoon.
He's extended his lead now to 2.3 seconds over Peter. That's Brock. John Smith out of business in the Castrol Toyota.
Bad luck for Smithy in the Supra. He is not to finish in the event. He's in the pits, or is he headed back out again? Yes, he is, just for the finish. It's all academic, really, because Johnson running away with this one as they go down the back sweeper. There's Brock running in second in 0.5. Bowe is third in 18. Right on his hammer is Glenn Seton in the Peter Jackson entry. And then back behind them, of course, car number 6, Andrew Miedecke. Well, the race came alive there about 6 or 8 laps ago when Johnson really did close it up. We had that great scrap going on between Glenn Seton and John Bowe.
Coming up to 49 minutes and 15 seconds.
There's every chance this is the last lap for Dick Johnson in car number 17. Third finisher at Sydney's Amaroo Park after starting out at the middle of the field. And this will help his points no end as he brings the Shell Sierra down the back sweeper. Opening up over Peter Brock 05 Mobile Sierra. third, and a comfortable third now is John Bowe. Fourth is Glenn Seton. That's the way, in fact, that they should finish out of Coca-Cola turn. Now down towards Little Hump. Over there, down to the pit turn, Dunlop Bridge. And we expect to see the checkered flag not too long as Dick Johnson sweeps across the line to take the checkered flag. Round 2 at Symmons Plains to the Queenslander Johnson. Second to Peter Brock in car number 5. Finishing back in third, Tassie's Johnny Bowe. Good finish from John Bowe today. Let's recap them for you on our Toyota race score service. The winner of round 2 from Symmons Plains, Queensland's Dick Johnson. Second goes to Melbourne's Peter Brock. Third to Devonport's John Bowe. Fourth to Glenn Seton. Fifth to Andrew Miedecke in car number 6. We've had an exciting race here at Symmons Plains, and we'll be back shortly to talk with the winner and the runner-up.
You look at the clouds and you look at the conditions and you make your choice. So we're thrilled with the way that it went, really, particularly early on there, ran away, and congratulations to George and Graham Brown and the boys. You know, I think we've got ourselves a pretty interesting race series this year.
Okay, thanks very much, Peter. Dick, you've had a carefully mapped out plan this week. You've tried very hard to avoid getting up in the qualifying race, but it's all counted on the day.
Well, you know, I think the main thing that we're concentrating on is really setting our car up for a distance rather than for one lap, and it sort of proves it, because the last few races we've basically had to play the waiting game to a certain extent, but just like the pursuer and the pursuee, you know. But I was really trying. Old Pete there, a couple of times I just sort of rubbed bumper bars with him, but he got a little bit sideways up the hairpin, but that's what it's all about, and you know, that's because I'd never intentionally run into anyone, and we've had a damn good race.
Yes, well, it seems already that the racing's going to be closer this year. That has to be good for the championship.
Well, that's the name of the game, because I think I'm last in the horsepower race at the moment, to be quite honest.
Okay, thanks, Dick. We'll just have the presentation awarded now. Tom Smith from Shell.
Dick, on behalf of Shell Ultra, all the best. A magnificent race, and it's given us a great thrill.
Thanks, Thomas. Thanks very much indeed, and I'd like to congratulate Peter. He sort of gave us a fairly hard sort of a race. It was a good race. Early in the piece, Tony was spewing a fair bit of oil out on us, but unfortunately he had a problem. Otherwise it would have been a three-way dice. And thanks to Shell and to all the other people, and especially Dunlop for our tyres. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dick Johnson with Cameron Williams there. Don't forget, coming up soon on 7 Sports, Sports World, of course. Telecast every Sunday, 9 through noon. That's Eastern time with Bruce McAvaney, coast to coast. Coming up also the Kmart Australian Basketball Classic. We move into the week of the finals now. March 18th, make sure you check your local guides for telecast times. Good to have the big ball game back again, of course. And still to come, a whole lot more sport on Channel 7. Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship. Our next round comes from Phillip Island in Victoria. That, of course, is a fortnight from today, 2 through 4. That's Eastern time on Sunday, the 25th of March. So we've had a very interesting round here today at Symmons Plains International Raceway. And don't forget, John Bowe at the moment and Peter Brock on point standings today are, of course, 27 points apiece. So they have the lead between them for the championship. Jimmy Richards, of course, runs third on 24 points, and Dick Johnson on 23. So how close would you like it? Very, very close indeed. Let's go back to Cameron Williams for a recap of Victory Lane.
Yes, as you say, Mike, a very close championship, and Neil, some unbelievable racing there today.
Yeah, that was fantastic, wasn't it? A tremendous start by Peter, and you know, he fought and defended as long as he could, but just having a look at those back tyres of his there before, they've certainly done some work, and Dick just chipped away, and 10th by 10th managed to get there, so a great result for the Shell team. And the other interesting thing is looking at the front right-hand corner of John's car, the whole flange is broken out of the side of that front right rim. Incredible.
Yes, that's right, Neil. Well, of course, in 2 weeks we go back to the Phillip Island Touring Car Championship. They make their debut down there. That should be some exciting racing, and of course we'll take you there live and exclusive.